Hello and welcome to Intersol Russia's project CELTO, Teaching English Online. This is episode 4, Bare Necessities. My name is Stephen Ligoff. Let's get started. So, anyone can talk on screen for extended periods, reciting theory, expecting student response. Today, we're going to talk about the bare necessities, the basic principles of good ESL teaching. What is good ESL teaching? See, good ESL teaching can be defined by 4 simple questions. These are questions that a teacher must ask themselves. These are the 4 hows that every teacher must consider before taking on a new student, before every lesson with old students. How do I involve my students? How can I make my students want to learn and look forward to their lessons? How can I make them work hard? How do I keep them happy? As discussed previously, unhappy students do not learn. Keep them happy. So, we can go on for hours discussing the varied and manifold pedagogical approaches to teaching. We've all been there, we've all got the textbooks, some of us have a grounding in university applied teaching practices, but none of them exist on their own. We have structural, notional, communicative, okay, and they all work great, but they do not work on their own. Teaching is not merely a question of method, but also of relationship. Successful English teaching is nestled in that comfortable valley between method and relationship. Never forget to employ both. Simply relying on one's relationship with the student means you have a friend, not a student. Merely relying on method means you have a brick on the other end of the camera, rather than a student. You need your student to want to learn. Your student will only be inspired in this manner if they can see that you want them to learn. Encourage them. Smile. Ask questions. Relevant questions. Make jokes. Show them that you are willing to help them out of sticky points. When they can't do something, never give up. Never just go, it's okay, you can do this one later. No, work with them. Try different methods. Show them that you are invested in their education. Students need to feel that they are progressing as well. Such a feeling comes only from their teacher. A student can very, 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 very rarely, I understand that they are making progress, but if you tell them, if you give them that validation, that support that says, you're doing well, you're making progress, you did this worse last week and you're doing it fantastically this week, they keep learning because they know now that they are learning. This feeling, again, only transmitted if they trust you. You can have a student, brand new student, and you have no relationship with them. You've never made any sort of connection. You just recite them theory and they answer a few questions. If you tell them that they're making great progress, that you're proud of them, that they need to keep on learning, that they're making progress, and thus the class is valuable, they're not going to believe you, or they won't care. With that relationship comes that validation. With that validation comes a dedication to education, and that dedication to education produces a successful, educated student. Protect that academic trust. Furthermore, self-esteem, something I know nothing about. Self-esteem is very important in language learning. To make sure that your students are happy and feeling secure, we must look after them. They must feel at ease, they must feel comfortable, they must feel welcome in the classroom or in front of the webcam. We as teachers need to settle them in Make them feel at ease, whilst sussing out any issues that they have. Sure, we can be kind and gracious to a student. Fantastic. They like being in the classroom. Fine. So, with this relationship allows another level, another layer to teaching, wherein you can more or less tailor your teaching to the student to produce greater levels of, production, greater levels of education, greater success, shorter time frames, better teaching all round. See, suss out these issues. Listen to them speak, while they speak at ease, while they speak with you frankly, when they feel welcome and gracious and they have good self-esteem. Listen to what they say. Suss out the issues they have with language. Any other issues that may serve as impediments to learning. Perhaps they have a particular grammatical problem. Again, we'll use the example of Russia. The article is non-existent. Look out for it. If they use the articles in some senses and not others, pay attention. Work that into your classes. Perhaps they rely too much on their mother tongue and are refusing to speak with you in English acceptably. Perhaps they have some familial prejudice against your race, for example. Perhaps the student is hyperactive. Perhaps the student is disinterested. They are our students. There are going to be problems, but they are our students. Listen. Look for and work with these issues. Hyper kids, for example, you're going to get a lot, love games. Sure, they're not so great on the theory. They love games. Find out what they're interested in and play these games. I assure you that they will look forward to your lesson every single week. 4 weeks ago, I got a brand new student, for example, who cannot sit still for more than 3 minutes. When he didn't like what he was doing, he's 6 years old, when he didn't like what he was doing, he'd verbatim, kill, scratch it out on the paper, and then run around the room. I've been playing computer games with him from Paradox computer games, wherein one sees a lot of kill. He loves it. He can now name 30 different nations in the ancient world, what they do, and he can actively describe them using almost crystal clear grammar, just by virtue of being so engaged into something tailored to him. Sure, he's a miracle student and cannot be expected to serve as tagline. Games with your hyperactive students. You are going to have students who are unenthused. It's going to happen. Especially, again, with the Chinese market, they have a very reserved culture, and you put them in front of a camera and they are going to go for hours if you let them. Hours. What you must do, find their interests. Find the interests, what they're interested in. Factor that into your discussion. We'll talk a bit about that later, but factor that into your discussion. Factor that into the activities that you do. I'm sure they will open up to you. If there is an over-reliance on the mother tongue, serve this as a blessing. They're usually going to be brand new students. This is a blessing. Sure, you cannot start them out in the grammar. You cannot start them out on a mix of grammatical and vocabulary-related tasks. But, my lord, are they going to be efficient at learning vocabulary quickly? Serve quick comparisons. Flex their grammar by asking them to explain a word that you've just done with them in English. And that's going to flex their grammar, at least in the basic level. But the vocabulary will come so easily, it will seem like almost magic. And from then on, once the vocabulary has a firm base, once they trust you enough as a teacher, well, they're going to start speaking English to you. If, for example, yes, there is a prejudice against your race. Often there is even a prejudice against English learning. In cases such as Tanzania, there is often a case of among certain peoples, among learning English over, say, Swahili. Be kind to them. Show them that you're not evil, that you're not here to suck their souls out, that you're just this kind person on the other end of the world and on the other side of a camera. There's really not much to it. Now, let's really get into it. Let's start with the real things to look out for. As mentioned before, number 1, involve personalized lessons. Get to know your student. I cannot stress this enough. Get to know your student. Their interests, backgrounds, personal preferences. Develop relevant activities. Have relevant discussions. Use your students' interests to bring value to the class. If they like a particular thing and aren't so interested in, learning English, learn English through the vector of this thing. Sure, they won't be as enthusiastic as they would be, but as you get through the classroom, it serves as a crutch for which you can develop their entire education before getting into the finicky stuff. Not only that, but my Lord, will build trust. If you tailor their English lessons around what they like, they're going to come back to that classroom every week. Going to come back and turn on Skype and call you every week. Number 2, confidence. Never put your student down. I cannot stress this enough. This is second only to involving your students personally. Never put your student down. A student must always have the experience of feeling progress, achievement. They must feel like the class is worth something. However small, realistically, I mean, you could have a student who after 6 tries can pronounce the word ant. It's happened to me. Congratulate them, they finally got there. Don't act exasperated like, finally. Congratulate them, they just did it. I mean, sure, it is a source of congratulation. Work with that. If they get one thing right, one grammatical question right in an entire page of grammar problems, and they can adequately explain why they got that question right to show that it wasn't just a mistake, wasn't just a guess, congratulate them. That is an achievement in and of itself, and they need to show that you are invested in their success. They need to feel that success. They need to feel that achievement, feel that validation, feel that progress. Make them feel like they're learning. If you must put your student down, it happens. You must put your student down sometimes. Never shout at them, never yell at them, never tell them that they are doing things badly. Never get angry. Never be patronizing. Use the word but. This is all right, but the proper way to do it, etc., etc., etc. Always give them that acknowledgement of it could be better. Not this is wrong, this isn't good, how could we do it better? Always ask them that as well. How can we do it better? Not starting with this is how it's done. It makes them feel stupid. Partner with them. Make them feel like, okay, got that question wrong. Let me prove myself and see if I can figure it out. And if they can't, well, at least they tried. And tell them that, at least you tried. You're not expected to know everything, you're an ESL student. At least you tried. Number 3, realistic language. That is red. That is red. Yes, this is red. My name is Steve. Yes, your name is Steve. This is a shirt. That is a shirt. People don't talk like that. This is English that exists. Yes, it's grammatically correct. Yes. Use realistic language. My Russian tutor, currently, speaks perfect English. Absolutely perfect English. Can hold a conversation with anyone on earth. It is textbook English. She comes to me for English lessons. We do a trade. She comes to me for English lessons because she has no clue what a synonym is, what inference is, what colloquialisms are. She speaks perfect English and fully admits that she cannot speak English at all. Do not let this happen to your students. Have discussions with them. Let them explore what it is to speak realistic English. Talk about ordering coffees. Talk about going to a bookstore. Talk about discussing their interests. Let them speak English, not learn what English looks like on a page. Realistic language. Brings us to 3.5, going to 4. 4. Speak properly. It's a mistake that early teachers make quite often. What you'll see is, you think that the student is having trouble with English, is poor at English. Well, you speak like a robot. How are you today? Oh, that's not human, let alone English. Think about it realistically. Speak slowly. Don't speak like a robot. They'll feel like they're being spoken down to. They'll lose interest. Moreover, use contractions. It's, what's, there, they are. Always use contractions. Why? Because those are very frequent in English and used more often than is not, cannot, aren't, they are. Let them use contractions. It'll build their confidence in conversational English. And that is realistically, again, as previously mentioned in last episode, what we want from our students. We want them to be able to speak and communicate in effectual English. Use contractions yourself so that they may pick it up and build that confidence and build that understanding of realistic English. Number 5, be aware of your accent. Now, do not do away with your accent. It is distracting to both you and the student, and you will sound strange. They understand you have come from somewhere, that you have some accent, and the English accent is very varied. Granted. Accents in English. In fact, the English accent itself is varied incredibly. Incredibly varied. For example, I am from Australia. In Australia, instead of saying water, we say water. Can you get me a glass of water? This W-A-D-D-A is not English. Now, understand that I did not say water. I said water, because it's easier for me to say, and a famicile of an English accent functions far better than pronunciationally correct water. If I end up saying water again and again, it's going to sound strange, both to me, both to the student, and we're going to get caught on each other's coattails a little. So, again, watch your accent. Watch the real problems that you have with your accent. Do not do away with it altogether. It will be distracting. Just watch for the real hard sticking points and work around them. Finally, number 6. Vary your tasks. Tying back to number 1, understand your kid's interest. Vary your tasks according to their interests so that they may maintain their interest in the classroom. Make sure that you're not just reading from a textbook time after time. Make sure that you're not only doing grammatical exercises. Make sure you're not only doing games. Make sure that you are not only doing, let's say, work from a novel. Work on varying your activities to keep them interested. If you can, throw in 1 or 2 things relevant to their personal interests to keep them enthused, to keep them interested in the wider process. There is a second part to this episode, right underneath this one. Please watch it, where we are going to talk about the basics of producing, production, and decorum within the classroom. Thank you kindly. Again, I've been Stephen Ligoff. This has been Celto and Intersol Russia. Enjoy your afternoon.